Things are looking up, guys. I'm telling you, things are looking up.
Don't change the channel. Don't touch that dial. We got it all on UHN. Kick off your sneakers.
Hey guys, it's Kemi and my review for this week of Big Brother 21, episodes 18 through 20, and holy shit, this week was so good. Honestly, this week was so good, and look, it's very rare, at least this season, that I get to come on here and talk about Big Brother 21 in a positive light, talk about how much I love this show, because I do love Big Brother. I think the concept is so good. When it's done right, it is one of the most riveting things ever, and that was absolutely the case this week. This is the kind of shit I want to see every single week, and if things are going the way I think it's going to, I think this week just single-handedly saved this entire season. But let's just get into it. So we start off with Sunday, and this episode was probably my favorite of the entire season without a doubt, because it's just all the drama unfolding. So we knew obviously on Thursday that something crazy happened before the Sam's eviction. There was gonna be some kind of flip. Julie didn't really know what was gonna happen, which we've never really seen before. And a lot of people thought she was just being hyperbolic. It wasn't that big of a deal. No, it was absolutely insane. And of course, yes, there was that 80-minute leak, which I did have access to, as many people did. I did watch a good chunk of it, but I chose to withhold that until I talked about it in this video, because I knew a good portion would be on the Sunday episode, and that was very much the case here. In fact, most of this episode is that drama, and oh my god, was it glorious to see. Just seeing the six shooters just completely implode, I loved it. So essentially what ended up happening here, because there is a lot to talk about, basically Jack and Jackson are having this conversation. Jackson slips up that he thinks that Holly and Kat know each other, and Jack chooses not to react to this at first. He chooses to not really have that big of a reaction, which in retrospect he probably should have. I mean, this is, even though it's not his ride or die, to Jackson this is his ride or die, so he probably should have had a bigger reaction there. But either way, this gets into the hands of Tommy, Sis, and Christie. They find out what's going on. Pretty much everyone is against Jackson at this point. And I have to say, out of everyone, I think Holly was doing the best job at, trying to be as, trying to be as coy with this as she can. She denies it immediately. She acts like they're targeting her and they're just ganging up on her for thinking this, and how dare they ever think that she knew Kat. I was actually very impressed by the way she was handling herself here, because obviously, yes, it's pretty obvious that Kat and Holly, they know each other, but they want to try to keep this a secret, and I think Holly did a really good job with that. Kat, on the other hand, is not great with confrontation, and we definitely see that here. She kind of tenses up. She doesn't really give a straightforward answer, whereas Holly is far more straightforward. We don't know each other. I don't know what you're thinking, but we do not know each other, and not only that, she's offended by the fact that they think they know each other. So I actually thought Holly did a really good job here. Who absolutely handled the situation wrong, though, was Jackson. I mean, the way that Jackson was handling things, just completely flying off the handle, especially when he got mad at Jack and when he got pissed at him and things like that. While it was hilarious to see, it just really reiterates that Jackson is just a guy that has really bad social game, and he really does have he really does do a bad job of keeping those emotions bottled up inside of him. He just kind of like erupts, and it's great to see. I just love seeing them turn on each other, and this basically just completely destroys any hope of this 6 years alliance staying together. Even though Tommy is doing his best, nothing really seems to be working out here. Jackson claims that the 6 is dead, and now pretty much, minus Christie, Tommy, and Jack, who Jackson has also now realized that Jack didn't really plan to go to the end with him. He's always been more firmly focused on Christie, Tommy, and Sis, which, I mean, it does make sense considering that Jackson and Holly have each other, and now that Kat's in there, it makes sense that Jack didn't want to go to the M with Jackson, but it also seems like, you know, that was the plan from the beginning, and this is something that we've always known. The show just hasn't really done a great job of covering it up to this point, but yeah, seeing this, you see Jack and Jackson, they're not allied anymore, and now everyone's kind of gone their separate ways, and I love seeing it so much. This is the kind of stuff I love to see on Big Brother. I love the way it was handled here. And especially just the moment where Cliff is going to Nicole and he's like, Nicole, the Six are breaking up. I'm like, fuck yeah, they are. That is the kind of stuff that we wanted to see. And it's not often that we get exactly what we wanted in a week, but that's exactly what we got here. Was this what I thought was going to be the thing that breaks this alliance apart? No, but I feel like ever since they came together, you know, early as when they were called Grateful still, we knew that this wasn't going to last. We knew that this was very risky, that there was definitely cracks in the foundation, the way that Jack was being very controlling and the way that he was kind of monopolizing all the conversations and making all the, you know, main decisions and things like that. The friction between many of the members there, that was definitely there for sure. And the fact that we could see that people like Christie, people like Jackson, they had a hard time keeping their emotions in lock. So, and of course, you know, everything that happened with Bella, that's a whole different situation. But in terms of this Six, like, I knew something would eventually break them apart. I just didn't think it would be this soon. But it was just so great to see. And I love the fact that they are no longer a thing anymore. So basically, we start off and things are pretty much fresh. Christie is set on going after Jackson. That is now her number one. He is now her number one target, which great. I love it. I love that Jackson is her number one target because, again, it does make sense. Jackson is the person that's not allied with her right now. Jack, Tommy, and Sis, she feels a lot more comfortable with. Meanwhile, Jackson and Holly, they're kind of on the outs right now. Holly does have Kat, and she has a couple other people, but Jackson is very much an outsider. Well, not necessarily an outsider, but he doesn't really have many allies at the moment, and that was definitely very great to see. Just, again, seeing this alliance completely crack. Not something we get to see that often, especially not this early on, but just getting to see it was fantastic, and I loved every minute of it here. Just such a great segment here. I love that this was most of the episode, and I love the way that they covered this for sure. Really great stuff here. Now, ultimately, they decide that the flip isn't going to happen, mainly just because of how bad this feud has gotten. It literally gets to a point where, because Jackson wants to save Kat, Christie feels that, all right, we'll just vote for Sam. You know, because you want to save Kat and you want Sam out, I'm going to actively vote for Sam against you. And that's why it doesn't end up happening. But it's also Holly kind of reeling them in, making them remember, like, okay, this is why we want Sam out. And I did think, again, she did a good job with that. And it really does show me that if Jackson goes, I actually do think Holly can get pretty far. Now, I don't know when Jackson's going to leave. I suspect it's going to be in like a double eviction or something like that. Or as they like to call it, double elim for some reason, even though it's a double eviction. And it's always been. I don't know what these people are doing, but regardless, if Holly gets away from Jackson, I think she can actually go really far. She's a really good way of handling herself, and I like where she's headed. So I definitely like seeing that here. But considering that the Six is completely split apart at this point, it was very, very unclear as to what was really going to happen here with who won HOH, but especially who ends up winning HOH. It's not who you think it's going to be. It is, in fact, Jessica that wins. And, I mean, I shouldn't be that surprised considering the last mental comp that they did that was like this. She actually was in second place. But, yeah, Jessica ends up winning, and what a win this was. And the second that happened, I knew two things could possibly happen. One, she either just, you know, completely just allies with the, you know, remnants of the Six, and she kind of like plays in the middle, or she does legitimately take a shot. Now, I just didn't think that she was capable of doing the latter. I thought the former was going to happen, but no, that's not at all what happens. Very early on, she makes it clear, I want to go after Jack and Jackson. You know, they are the ones that have been controlling a lot of things. You know, Jackson banished her, Jack put her on the block, and she holds a lot of animosity towards them for that, which is, again, she should, honestly. That is definitely deserving for sure, and I love how controlling she is here. I love how much she wants to go after them, and I love seeing Nicole, Kat, and Cliff so happy that she won this HOH, and that moment when she puts them up, it was great to see, and I love that she did it. I love that she didn't try to pull any punches here. She went in for the kill, and that was just great to see here. So that's pretty much everything that happens on Sunday's episode. Now we get into Wednesdays, and really there's not a lot to talk about. And here's the thing, this is a fairly simple week, but I like the fact that it's simple because what I like, you know, what I want to happen is what's happening here. You know, minus the 6 imploding, it's pretty much smooth sailing from there. But we do have one possible situation that might get in the way of that, and that is in the form of Nick. Nick, at this point, he's kind of on both sides at the moment, where on one hand, he seems to be, you know, with Jessica and all of them, where he is, you know, very much against Jack and wants to vote for him. However, he also is trying to get back in with the remnants of the 6 and Jackson and Holly. So Jessica, she isn't very certain that Nick is on their side. She briefly thinks about possibly putting him up, and thankfully she doesn't do that. But we do get to the veto. We see Jack is very adamant about winning it, which once again, he just completely fails in proving it. And that's what's so great about Jack. And when I mean so great, I mean that's one of the reasons why Jack is a complete moron on this show, and why I really can't stand Jack, because he's so overconfident that it pretty much gets the best of him. He goes into every single comp thing, I'm gonna win this. There's no possible way that I can't win this, and he usually ends up second to last place, which is just hilarious to watch. Same thing happens this time around, and, you know, Jessica ends up winning the POV, which was fantastic. I love seeing that. I love seeing Jessica win the veto, but like I said, I just did not think she was going to have the balls to pull this off. I did not think that was going to happen. But like I said, I just did not think she had the guts to really pull this off, because Jessica is not someone that I would consider like a top tier player that makes all these risky decisions. She's not bad like Sis or something like that, but she's a medium player where you don't really know where she's going to lie in that sense. And thankfully, no, she goes through with it. She does not end up putting up anyone, and that's great. There was no reason for her to, and the best thing about this is that Christie's power pretty much ends up being useless here. I was really worried we were going to get a repeat of, you know, the Cliff HOH, and I was hoping that's not what was going to happen here, and it's not. Jessica does, like I said, she sticks to her guns, and I just am so proud that she did that. I can't believe that she actually did it. I did not think Jessica had the capability to pull something like that off. And look, does this at all change how Jessica is as a player? No, up to this point, she hasn't been that great. But because she had that power and the pendulum swung from one side to the other, she took that shot, and I am so happy that she did. And that was really great to see. But like I said, I was very worried because Christie doesn't feel that Jack should leave. She feels this is very undeserving. She thought for sure that Jackson was public enemy number 1 in that sense, and that was Jessica's plan, which I thought was a really good one. The way that she was going to try to convince everyone that Jackson was the main target and then target Jack. That's actually a really great way of getting people on your side, recruiting allies, and making sure things go the way you want them to without directly revealing what your plan is. That's something that's very important as an HOH. You never want to reveal what your actual plan is, except for the people that you're working with. You don't want to do that for the other side, obviously. And that's something that HOHs do far too often. They get HOH-itis and they try to control everything, but they also try to, and again, I'm not saying this wasn't like, you know, kind of HOH-itis, because in a way it kind of was, but it was a good kind in the sense where it was something that was benefiting her. Unfortunately, though, it almost didn't work out, but thankfully she did not crack under the pressure. She stuck to her guns, and that was just great to see, and I absolutely love that for sure. But because of the way the veto does play out, there are certain punishments that these house guests have to have. Now, Jack has to be visited by this alien, which is essentially the same thing that Rachel got last year, except this is way funnier because this alien pretty much tells him everything that we think about Jack, and Jack is just taking it. Like, he's absolutely loving what he's getting from this alien. Pretty much everything the alien's saying is kind of going over his head, and I just love seeing this alien just completely annihilate Jack. That was definitely hilarious to watch. And then Jackson has to do this thing where he has to operate on an alien every few hours, and then Tommy, he has to wear this, like, big thing on his head that kind of looks like a dick, and every time it goes off, there's, like, this smell that, like, erodes the house. So those are always fun to watch. I always like what they did here, and I thought that was a really entertaining segment for sure. But then, of course, you know, getting to Thursday, just seeing how everything played out was great. Jack does end up going in an almost unanimous vote. The only people that don't vote him out, unsurprisingly, are Sis and Christie, but surprisingly, Tommy does actually get him out, and I can kind of see why. Even though Tommy is very adamant about the six staying together, I think Tommy knew that Jack is dangerous for his game. I think Tommy knew that if he stuck by someone like Jack, it just would not be the greatest idea, just because of how much of a ticking time bomb Jack is in that sense, how he has held so much control in that way. And I think he did a good job with, you know, thinking about his own game, not sticking by what Christie wants to do, which a lot of house guests are doing, and I like that Tommy actually deviated from that. That was very smart for sure. It also does a good job because, of course, you know, now that the Holly and Kat thing is a big problem, you know, he's trying to do his best to distance himself from Christie, and I do think he's doing a good job with that here for sure. So that was definitely really great to see. But then Jack's actual eviction was so much better than I anticipated, because not since the Aaron eviction have we seen something this ugly before, where Julie just completely grilled into him, and I love seeing it. I love her calling him out about the Kemi comment. I loved her calling him out about what he said about Bella, and especially playing the live feed clips and how long they were playing. I mean, it actually does a really good job with showing up that context, so Jack can't, you know, deny that it ever happened. Like, he has proof right there that he said it. And look, I know Jack was trying to be all defensive and shit, and he tried to say that he was sorry. I didn't buy it for a second. I saw this completely as he was either told before in the diary room that this was going to happen and he needed to prepare himself, or he's just trying to cover his own ass. He knows that he's on live TV. He knows that he has to have some sort of form of remorse for what he did, even if he really doesn't feel that way, and I honestly don't really think Jack feels that way. I think it's pretty obvious that he meant what he said, and I don't buy. I think his half-assed responses just did not fool me for 1 second, and that didn't work at all. But even better were the goodbye messages. Now, this obviously wasn't on the episode, but getting to see them was great. I especially love Nicole's, where she talked about how she can keep her shaker bottle in the fridge, because, yeah, I mean, just little things like that. That's why Jack ultimately got evicted. The fact that he got upset over something that tedious and something that small as just a water bottle in the fridge was ridiculous, and I was really glad to see her drag him like that. I also loved when Holly almost said that her and Kat knew each other, but said that she and Kat were happy that he was leaving, and then Kat, you know, making him just completely not know, you know, what the answer is, and him just not having that conclusive answer was just great to see. I also just really appreciated the way Jack was being treated by the audience, the way he was constantly trying to charm them, and basically all of his jokes just completely fell flat. It was dead silent, which I've never heard it that silent before when it comes to an eviction, but it was fucking glorious, and I loved every minute of it, and Jack absolutely deserved it with just how self-righteous and just overly controlling he's been, and how disgusting he's been as well. He deserved every minute of what he got, and it was great to see. and him being the first member of the jury, again, it really does kind of pivot this season in the right direction. I think this was the best time to get him out for sure. I loved everything about this. I do kind of wish there were some other things that Julie did bring up. The way he was acting towards David especially was probably the worst of all of his racist, or as they like to say in the show, ugly comments. I think definitely just, especially when he was trying to walk and he was acting like an ape and things like that, and seeing how that was how he viewed David, I mean, that was easily the biggest indication that, yeah, he is incredibly racist, and that's why I don't really think Jack is, you know, at all remorseful of what he said, because he still continued to do it, and his defenses were really bad. Oh, it was amongst friends. Oh, it was a reference to this. Like, no, Jack, don't try to defend it. Don't try to justify what you're doing. It was pretty obvious what you were doing, and you're not going to convince us for a second that you did something else. So yeah, that didn't really work at all, and again, ultimately, Jack leaving was the right thing to do. Jessica got the right person out, because Jack being gone, it's a whole new game now at this point. I mean, Jack controlled so much of what was going on that pretty much everyone is a free agent now, especially if you're Tommy or Christie. It's a good day to be them, because now they can get many allies on their side. They can really steamroll, and as much as I don't like Christie in this game, I do think she has legitimately a really good chance of going far. Now, of course, she could run her mouth, and that could get her in trouble, because she does do that quite a lot. But I do think if she handles this right, she could go pretty far, especially since this episode ends with Tommy now winning HOH, which, you know, he's talked about in the live feeds before how he really wants to start winning competitions and how he was getting bored at the way he was playing. So this is not a shock to anyone, especially now that Jack is gone. It makes sense why Tommy is so adamant on winning HOH here. You know, it makes a lot of sense as to why he wanted to win that, and I thought that was really great. Now, I don't really know where his head is at this point. I would assume that he's not going to target any of the 6, because Tommy was very adamant about wanting those 5 to stick together, even though they've gone their own separate directions. I do think Tommy is someone who's going to try to reel them in, so I would assume he's going to target someone from the outsiders, which honestly would probably be the right move. Now, I already do know what he's done. I'm not going to cover that right now, but it's not necessarily what we want, but for Tommy, it is definitely what's best for his game, for sure. At this point, it's definitely the move that he needs to make. Ultimately, though, I'm just excited to see where we do head moving forward. There's a lot of stuff that I'm not really sure of, especially when it comes to Holly, who, if she handles herself right, like I said, I think she's shown that she has a very good chance of actually going really far, especially if she distances herself from Jackson, which, like I said, I think, you know, double eviction's not happening this week, but once it does, I think Jackson's pretty much headed out the door at that point. If not him, it'll probably be Christie. We'll have to see the way that does play out for sure. And as far as these outsiders go, you know, I don't think that these 4 are going to survive, you know, for a long, long time, but I do think they have increased their lifespan a little bit. I think Jessica at this point is probably going to get like 3rd or 4th place. What could have been her just being taken out like a double eviction, I think she has secured a spot in at least the top 5 at this point, and that's really great to see. You know, her lifespan in this game, I think, has increased a lot based on what she's done. She's shown that she definitely does have some agency. She's not, she's not opposed to doing something really big, and I think that's something that everyone here is going to take note of. And I don't think that she's going to have to take the brunt for this. I don't think that this is going to cost her. I think she did enough here where she didn't get blood on her hands, because she does still have Holly. She has Christie. She has the 4, outsiders. So I do think she's going to do, she did some really great work here, and I'm excited to see where she ends up going. Just overall, this was a really, really refreshing week. It's great to see a week where, of course, the 6 aren't dominating, but it's also great to see them them just completely implode in that sense. And Jack being gone, it's just a whole new game at this point, and I'm very excited to see what does end up coming from it. I think things are definitely looking up. Now, do I think this is going to make the season, like, amazing or anything? No, I think this was just a fluke. I really do. I think this was just a week in which all the right things happen, and I think moving forward, it's going to be okay. I don't think it's going to be as bad as it's been, because now that we have Jack on, it's, you know, it's not going to be as torturous and things like that, and also because it's not going to be as predictable. But I don't think it's going to be an amazing season either, because we still don't have that many great players in there. I mean, even Jessica, she just did what we wanted her to do. Like, she didn't do anything that amazing. It's just she did what everyone didn't think was capable, and that's really great to see for sure, and I'll definitely give her the credit there. The field trip twist, I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work either. You guys know how I feel about twists. I don't really know how they're going to implement that. We'll have to see, but either way, guys, in my review this week of Big Brother 21, let me know what you guys saw this week overall. Left your thoughts on it. I apologize that this video is late. I just really have not had the time to review this till now, but that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.